I always refer to Venus in Aquarius as cyborg sexuality, and I will explain what that means. Hello, star children, sex symbols, and everything in between. As my friend Albino would say, girls, gays, and days. Welcome back to Heavenly Bodies, a trip through the cosmos with David Odyssey. It is I, David Odyssey. We are doing something very fun, which is our sort of, you can call them horoscopes, you can call it a monthly rundown, but we are going to get cracking and talk about what's to come with Aquarius season. So I wanted to lay a few things out for you just so that this is as new user friendly as possible. And then we're kind of going to go on this journey together. So the way, first of all, every month the sun enters a new sign. That is kind of how we think of the seasons in astrology. And in that time, all sorts of shit is happening, and it makes it digestible because I, as your astrologer, can say, okay, over the next few weeks, this is what's happening with the planets. This is what's going on. These are the full moons, new moons, any retrogrades, etc., etc., etc. Okay. For you, what I really would recommend doing while I'm talking, or after you listen to this, or after you watch this, if you can pull your chart up and look at your chart and follow or kind of contemplate on where this is happening for you. Which is to say, if I'm talking about planets moving into Aquarius, I can really talk about those themes and what that's going to mean and what I think is out there. But as you've heard me say before, I don't know your life. So I think it would be really useful if you could say, okay, for instance, if you have Aquarius, in your fourth house, it's in the fourth house of your chart, the fourth house of home, roots, and family. That's where all this shit is going to be going down. Interesting. If I'm talking about the new moon and the full moon in Leo, if you have Leo in this part of your chart where you actually were already born with these planets there, it might affect you personally in that way, ... So I'm trying to put it out that way so that my goal with this, one of my goals with this show, is that you are developing your own means of insight and perception. And I want you to be able to look at what's going on for you and what's going on big picture and kind of do that interpolation and interpretation on your own. So we are going to kind of zoom out and then zoom in again. First of all, what is Aquarius is a really good question. Aquarius is really the weirdest sign. I often am just like, what's going on there? All of the Aquarians in my life, I am constantly like, what's your deal? So Aquarius is the second to last sign of the zodiac. When we're thinking about the finale of the zodiac, the winter months, Aries starts the zodiac, Aries comes in the spring. So before Aries, we have the final three signs, which are the signs of the winter, which are Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Aquarius season launches on January 19th until Pisces season, which I think is February 18th. Capricorn starts the winter off, and it's about reaching the pinnacle of a year's worth of work. Capricorn is really about, Capricorn season comes during New Year's. It's really about where have all my efforts led me? Aquarius season is the next level, which is, what is the point? What am I doing in the world? What are my ideals? Who is my community? Who is my audience? Aquarius rules, as I've said before, Aquarius rules the circulatory system in the body. So we're really thinking about what is the effect. Aquarius, if you think in tarot, we're thinking about the star card. So you're thinking about the North Star. Aquarius deals a lot with these bigger questions about what is the ideological purpose of what we do in the world. After Aquarius comes Pisces. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. Pisces is the water of the ocean of interconnected human consciousness. Pisces is very like Jesus on the cross. We are all one man. Aquarius is literally the bucket which carries that interconnected cosmic emotional consciousness, which is so beautiful and lovely. Okay. So what is the bucket? What is the means? If we, again, the circulatory system, we're not even talking about the blood itself. We're talking about how do we get the message out? How do we get the connection out? What is the means of connecting us? What is the style? What is the mode of delivery? So Aquarius, which Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Saturn, the planet of structure, definition, form. Uranus, planet of revolution, new technology, chaos. So it has this Promethean aspect, which is how do we deliver the fire to the people? So what is that, like, what do we do with that? And I'm going to get into like what's going on specifically this Aquarius season, but a lot of what's going on in terms of astrology for 2026, and as you'll see when we start talking about some of these bigger conjunctions, is if we are in a new world order, we're shifting how we're dealing. A lot of what has been maybe shock or grievance or reactivity is now needing to shift either into originality, creativity, organization, and new means of distributing, the message or finding your people. We are all very well aware at this point that a lot of the sort of organizing platforms, currencies, or mediums are quite corrupt. Okay, we get it. I think like that's pretty loud and clear. Aquarius is really a lot about like, okay, so what is the new thing? How do we build it? And on a personal level, I think that really, and we'll talk about this with Leo, because Leo and Aquarius are opposites. They're two sides of a coin. And Leo deals with, I'm a star, I have a gift to give the world, I have things to say. Aquarius says like, why are you saying it and to whom and where? So Aquarius, there's a lot of these sort of zoomed out questions about what we're doing. To begin, we'll have quite a few planets moving into Aquarius during Aquarius season. We'll have what's called a stellium, which is a cluster of planets in the same sign, which means that that sign gets really jacked up. When we're talking about like horoscopes, etc., you're usually just thinking, okay, the sun moves into a different sign every month. When other planets are in that sign, they're activating different parts of the culture, and they're activating different parts of you and how you deal with the world and how you see yourself. So it's pretty loaded. Venus, and I'm going to tell you what all of these mean, but let me just list it. Venus goes into Aquarius January 17th through February 10th. Mercury is in Aquarius January 20th through February 6th. Mars is in Aquarius January 24th through March 1st. Let's just go over these. Mercury is like action, doing. It's very day to day. It's the sort of logistical aspect of how you're talking, who you're talking to, how things get done. Mars and Venus are masculine, feminine. Mars is drive, ego, fire, ambition. This is my body. This is what I want to do. Venus is beauty, artistry. How am I being seen? How do I want to be seen? Okay. I always refer to Venus in Aquarius as cyborg sexuality, and I will explain what that means. Aquarius, like I said, is dealing with these really macro questions about like, why are we doing anything we're doing? Dion says in Clueless, like the post-adolescent idealistic phase. So Aquarius has these really zoomed out, like, who am I? Am I a human? Why? What is gender? Okay. So when Venus and Mars, which deal a lot with our presentation, our style, the way we express ourselves, our sort of sexual bodily performance, There is a sense of almost being an alien who's observing yourself. Like, imagine you are an alien watching yourself go about your day to day. There is this sort of zoomed out thing. I think that can be dissociative. And it's like, again, people who are born with planets in Aquarius, this is what life is always like for them, I think. But I think it's a beautiful moment, especially if you think about the winter as this reboot before the spring awakening, where you're kind of zooming out and looking at your life and being like, oh, that's how she dresses to go to work, that's how she presents herself. Why are we doing that? It's not necessarily the like, it's not Scorpio, which is like, my life has been a lie, I have to destroy it all. It's a bit, and I love this. Happens a lot in readings with people who have a Mars or Venus placement in Aquarius. It really is the choose your avatar thing. You know, when you're starting a video game and you have the thing where you get to like choose which player you want to be and then how they look. You know, like it's at the start of Mortal Kombat where you're like, do I want to be Katana or Sindel? And I think there's this zoomed out thing of like, you know, Paris Hilton is an amazing Aquarius because I always think of Paris Hilton. When I see Paris Hilton, I'm like, this is the Paris Hilton we see, and there is the Paris Hilton who's in a room kind of remote controlling this fembot. So I think that can sound really weird, and I think we all go through phases where we're kind of not fully in our bodies. What I think the use of this choose your player thing is, if we were to think of the new you, the new look, or the new avatar we want to put out into the world, that can be what is the digital presentation we want to put out? What is the new sort of brand? I hate using that word. What is the you that is interacting with different sorts of people? And who is the you who is kind of the drone operator? I think it's a really nice time to be kind of thinking about, okay, what is the avatar we want to create that we launch out into the world? I think there's something to that because as you're observing your life, I mean, I think it's always weird when you, for instance, with social media, where you're like, that's what I'm projecting. What the fuck? And I think this is kind of a nice moment of rebooting the mainframe. These planets will be hitting in Aquarius. Pluto is already in Aquarius. Pluto's been in Aquarius since like last year. It'll be there for a while, for 2 decades. So Pluto is the planet of the reboot, the death and rebirth, the metamorphosis. And I think that while these planets are in Aquarius, there is this thing of like, okay, the world is changing fast, technology is evolving, my social scene has changed, my network has changed, my idea of the world has changed. What is the new me, the new vibe, the new look? So I think it can be fun. And with gender, I would just say this. Aquarians are really good at playing with gender to play the role that the world wants. So John Travolta's an Aquarius. If you think about, he's so good in a lot of his 70s and 80s movies of doing this sort of perfectly calculated masculinity. Megan Thee Stallion, Paris Hilton. There is that thing of Timothée Chalamet is Venus in Aquarius, of I can figure out what the presentation is and do it. So I think it's fun and like, yeah, go cuckoo, play around. All right, let's talk about moons. So we have a few events that are worth discussing. So January 18th, we will have a new moon in Capricorn. That means that, in the Jewish calendar, that's when the lunar month starts. Capricorn, like I said, Capricorn deals a lot with like achievement, getting shit together, moving forward. If you think about January 18th just in life, it's dead of winter. And in the dead of winter, you're kind of like gathering the grains and making sure that like you have what it takes to keep the house heated and keep everyone fed until things kind of lighten up. So a new moon in Capricorn, I think, is quite productive. New Year's, it's interesting because if you think about like New Year's and the thing where people always have resolutions or they start going to the gym more, 2 or 3 weeks in, we're kind of figuring out like what of that is actually real. And I think the new moon in Capricorn is a nice crystallization moment of like, okay, I actually do want to go on this path this year. So that's nice. Let's get to the more exciting one, which is a Leo full moon on February 1st, which is the pagan Celtic witch holiday of Imbolc. Imbolc is one of the Sabbaths of the year. So if you think about like Beltane, the equinoxes, the solstices, which are these marker points, Imbolc, February 1st, comes between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. I hope I got that right, and I hope I said that right. If there's some hags listening and I'm saying something wrong, please correct me. But this is I think Imbolc's pretty amazing. Imbolc is the holiday of the Irish Celtic goddess Brigid. Brigid is this, she who later became Saint Bridget. Brigid is this goddess of like poetry and beauty. So she has that Venus aspect, but she's also the goddess of like blacksmiths like at the forge. She's a fire goddess. If you think about like the forge and creating metal and iron and weight, she has that sort of winter aspect. So when we're thinking of a fire goddess, it's a full moon in Leo. Leo's a fire sign. Leo is the sun. Leo rules the sun. Leo is so much about star power and light and brightness. And it's like, why are we getting this Leo full moon in the dead of winter? Brigid is that sort of hard winter. She's a winter fire goddess, which sounds pretty cuckoo. But I just love this sort of an incarnation of the divine feminine because it's not quite like Venus coming out of the sea in Cyprus. It's a bit more like woman in fur working at the smelts. Brigid is associated with wells. I've been learning in my rabbinical studies that wells are a huge thing in the Jewish Bible because, like, any of the foremothers, they're usually like working at the well when they get met. That happens with Rebecca, with Sarah, etc. There's something besides the vaginal imagery of a well and the abyss. Okay, the idea of like the woman who's like loading up ropes and has buckets of water and is like, there's like a scrappiness and a labor aspect that I think is really like fabulous to this goddess. So what does all that mean for you? Like, why am I talking? Why am I talking generally? But there is Imbolc, this holiday, which is this kind of feast of Brigid. Imbolc in Gaelic means in the belly. And there is this aspect of in the well, at the smithery, this sort of a gestational light. There is a light that is cooking. There are sparks that are flaming in the dark. And I think it's a really beautiful time because January and February, I mean, especially if you live like, I think anyone who lives in New York can tell you this, but like November, December, we have Christmas and it's so romantic and cinematic. And then January and February, like you truly do feel like the world has abandoned you and you are just in like pitch black darkness and there's just like nothing to look forward to and nowhere to go. Imbolc and this full moon in Leo and this celebration of Brigid, I think is about this sort of like sparking fire that's happening in the dark. It's about these sort of creative sparks that are popping off, even if they're out of sight. The full moon in Leo, I think, is really, Leo is so much, like I said, Aquarius season, Aquarius, zoom out, who am I in the world? What am I talking about? What's the point? Blah, blah, blah. Leo is so much about deep inside, in the belly, in the heart, in the body, in the well, in the dark room. What is the thing that you're working on? What is the thing you're wanting to put out? What is that spark of joy or labor or work? Winter, like I said, has this labor aspect to it because it's not quite Summer is way more who wants to work, it's party time. Right now, I think that bridge it as that like, okay, you want to be a poet? Let's like rehash those lines. So I would really take this full moon as this sort of like, even if it's you and your friends talking about like what's out there or what you're curious about or what you're wanting to make or what's inspiring you, it's a good one. We then get the start of eclipse season. So let me just like, eclipses are cuckoo. You get 2 eclipse seasons every year, and eclipses happen back to back. So eclipses will happen on the new and full moon back to back. This eclipse season already begins with a new moon annular solar eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius on February 17th. So these are such pains in the ass. Sorry, but there's something about eclipses where I'm always like, okay, what the fuck are we talking about? But it's not a total solar eclipse. It means that the moon and the sun are only partially, there's only a partial blockage. It's not like a total shutdown. Okay? So do with that what you will. But we are having the start of eclipse season, February 17th. We will be getting the second eclipse. Let me just tell you, that's in March, on March 3rd. That'll be a total lunar eclipse. So that is a full moon, shut it down eclipse in Virgo. So the eclipses, what are eclipses? And then I'm going to kind of go into cuckoo territory and full David territory with this. Eclipses are these sort of flashpoint portals, things. They're basically the hellmouth kind of gets peeled open for a few moments, and a lot of what is going on interpersonally or globally explodes out. They're not really something that you're supposed to like prepare. You can't really like prepare for them. They're just these sort of climaxes or orgasms to these bigger themes that are going on. The eclipses move backwards. I know that's a pain in the ass. For instance, the eclipses have been in Pisces and Virgo. They're entering, the eclipse cycle's then going to go into Aquarius, Leo, which are the previous signs. Just, okay. So this will be the introduction to the Aquarius, Leo cycle. We have a new moon, annular solar eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So the last time we had eclipses in the Aquarius Leo scenario would have been, is that 2017 through 20? Yeah. So that would have been 2017 through 2019. And the last time we had them in the time that they were last in this positioning where with the nodes, don't worry about it, was also 1998 through 2000. So I just wanted to talk about some of the things that were going on briefly during that time, those times, so that you can kind of get an idea of what the themes are or kind of what the assignments are. So in the last time that we had an eclipse at this degree of Aquarius, so this eclipse will be at 28 degrees Aquarius. The last time it was a degree away was the 2018 eclipse of February 2018 and the February 1999 eclipse. And let me tell you what was going on. February 1999 was the acquittal of Bill Clinton from his impeachment. We also had in New York City, there was a shooting of an innocent, you would have said an immigrant back then, or now it would be maybe anyways, whatever the terminology is, of Amadou Diallo. So that was going on. And this was a month before The Matrix came out. Okay, hold that. The February 2018 eclipse coincided with the Parkland shooting and Black Panther, the movie coming out. So what do we do with that? The Bill Clinton thing I just had to mention because I think like it doesn't take a great astrologer to tell you that like the idea of people in power basically getting away with anything and everything, that is not new, but I think these Aquarius, which deals so much with ideals and how the world should be, we're seeing that happening. Okay, fine. We then see with these two previous eclipses at this degree of Aquarius, these really like horrific injustices, this violence that's done either by shooters or by policemen. And we see this sort of violence, and Aquarius deals a lot with the revolution. Aquarius is so much informed by youth culture and about change. And I think these eclipses bring out the dark side, which is seeing the shadow, seeing who's on the opposite side of that, which is who are the people who are committing these grave injustices, who has this power that's being abused, and who are these people who are taking it upon themselves to commit these horrific acts of violence. So the eclipse brings that out, and it's so sad and ugly, but I think it's about, it really reveals these sort of dark undercurrents. The then hopeful or interesting thing that happens with these eclipses, and who knows what form that will take this February, is The Matrix coming out and Black Panther coming out. The Matrix and Black Panther were both these epic, cinematic, deeply futuristic, this is where the world will and could go, and these huge portal openings for what, if you're in the theater watching these movies, visually, in terms of gender, and gender with The Matrix, race with Black Panther, but also gender with Black Panther, because those movies fucking lit. It's a huge awakening of how can these, through art, through style, through fashion, and through new ways of seeing the world. Black Panther has this idea of Afrofuturism, which is saying, what if we could imagine a utopia beyond this sort of prison state that's been created in America? The Matrix was saying, what if queer and trans people like all had this awakening and could like break the system? So what do we do with all of this information? And this is me kind of spewing out a lot of stuff at you. This eclipse, I think, is going to, and maybe it happens in hindsight, but I think we're in such a dizzying point in terms of the systems of power, the people in power, the abuses of power, violence, and then what do we fucking do, and how do we deal with this, and where do we go, and what do we do with this information? I think these eclipses are going to help, or going to, one way or the other, locate all of us and kind of like do the Matrix thing of like, okay, this is your awakening point. This is what's going on. These are the things that are setting you off. And this is your kind of like place to access it. Aquarius always deals with themes of rebellion and revolution, and with genius and possibility. And when we talk about, I hate saying when we talk about, it's so cliche, so sorry for catching me there. But I think, when you look at these, like when you think about what happened in Parkland and you think about who are these shooters and why, you think about these people who have a sick idea, a really fucked up idea of rebelling or getting revenge. And I think that when you witness these events, it always shows the dark side of ideas of being a revolutionary or a rebel. And I think it helps bring us to like the real cause, which is like the service, the goodness, wanting to serve others, be a part of a bigger community. And then when we look at the bigger kind of, I don't know, I just think when I saw Black Panther and The Matrix with these previous eclipses, I was like, fuck yeah. What possible. Aquarius, Uranus, Prometheus. What is the fire that we give to the people? What is the new light, the new technology, the new voice, the new thing, the new way of thinking? And that comes through creativity. So I'm hoping that this eclipse starts off some sort of a bigger, out of the disappointment, out of the horror, out of the shock, out of the nightmare. What is the art that either you're putting into the world or that you're witnessing that is sort of lighting the way forward? And the Matrix and Black Panther have been and will be influential forever. You are not under pressure to make a work of art like that. But I think these eclipses bring us into those kind of everything was before, everything will be after this. Again, with an eclipse, everything is just so jagged. Eclipse season is, if you're sensitive, if you are like me and you kind of are feeling these currents, everything is just coming up. So notice where the eclipse is happening in your chart, because that just usually means some buried, repressed shit is going to come blasting open. And these are kind of the ways to encapsulate it. But the thing with eclipse season is, like, until the second eclipse on March 3rd is done, we're not really going to get closure. So I don't really recommend you like do anything with this, but witness and just kind of pay attention to what's getting kicked up. Okay. The next kind of big events to think about, we will be talking about these in separate episodes, but I just wanted to give you a little rundown because these are pretty big. The planets Saturn and Neptune have been in Pisces. They are entering Aries. Saturn enters Aries February 13th. Neptune enters Aries January 26th. So like I said, we'll be getting into the big scenario, but let me just kind of give you the broad strokes. Saturn is the planet of structure, definition, form, accountability, responsibility, sobriety. Neptune deals with imagination, spirituality, intoxication, self-sabotage. They're kind of perfect opposites in that regard. They have both been in Pisces. They each took kind of a summertime preview in 2025 in Aries, where they both entered Aries briefly and then retrograded or went backwards into Pisces. Neptune's been in Pisces since, 2010. Saturn's been in Pisces since 2023. 2022, 2023. So Pisces, and I know I've said this before, but Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. Pisces deals a lot with Pisces. You really think about the dark room. You think a lot about the collage. It's the final sign of the zodiac. So we're going to the priest or the therapist to say, this is what I've done. This is who I've been. This is what's happened to me. This is what I've endured. This is what I've suffered. This is what I've inherited. I want to make sense of all of this before the cycle starts anew. Aries is the egg hatching. Aries is the launch of a new cycle. So there's a lot more to it than that, and we'll talk about what happens when these planets individually enter Aries. But what I think you should keep in mind for this moment specifically is, when these planets have been hanging at the very, very end of Pisces, which is at the very, very end of the zodiac, which for Saturn is the very, very end of a 30-year cycle, which for Neptune is the end of a 120-something year cycle, it's really doing a very, very final closure. I know that we all have these experiences in life of, I thought I was over that, then I wasn't. I thought I resolved that, then it came back. This is it. As these planets enter Aries, it really is the start of a whole new paradigm, globally, but really personally. if you felt last summer and into the fall, like we were starting to see some kind of new ways of being, that was really just the first shred of the potato. So want to, and I'll give you the more specific assignments when we get into these episodes for Saturn, for Neptune. But this winter, and this is really the most relevant part, before the planets are entering in late January and February, this is the final closure. If there is a final grieving, if you need to watch Kiki's Delivery Service one last time and cry your eyes out, now is the time. It's the dark of winter. You might as well. Like, now is the time to do the... Caroline Casey has this thing about getting over heartbreak, which is like when you do the ritual of like, I'm giving myself one night to be a fucking banshee, cry my eyes out, go crazy, rip up pictures, leave cuckoo voicemails, whatever that is. What I'm saying to you now is this January into February is it. So if you've thought, oh, am I ever going to be free of this? Am I ever going to be rid of it? Do the do it now. I'm thinking about Mary McDonnell in the last episode of Battlestar Galactica when her whole family have died in like a car accident and she just like is in her nightgown and walks into a public fountain and people are just like, what's up, sis? So I want to say to you, we are all about to enter a whole new everything. So it's useful now to do the grieving in full so that you don't even have these remnants. Like, get it out of your body. I'm giving myself this advice, which is like, okay, there's all the emotional processing I've done all these years. Now it's like, okay, let's just get this shit out of my body. And whichever psychedelic means of doing that, you are welcome. Whatever works for you, babe. This will be big, and we will be doing an episode on this next week, so stick around. Saturn and Neptune will be going conjunct. That means those two planets will be right on top of each other, which has not happened in 36 years since 1989, on the 20th. So if you want to set the 20th of February. So if you want to set like February 20th as the like tick, 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 boom for that, I would. February 20th, we are doing the final ritual. Okay. The last thing to say, this is something that will help, give us a little perspective. Like I said, okay, we can all follow when the sun moves into each sign. That's Aries season, that's Pisces season. While that's happening, other planets are moving through other signs at their own speed, which means that often, and we'll see as this happens here, like Venus and Mercury are going to enter Pisces before Pisces season begins. That means that a lot of those themes are already going to get kicked up for you. So again, like I said, I would look at your chart because by the time we're in February, Venus and Mercury will be entering Pisces. So Mercury enters Pisces February 6th. Venus enters Pisces February 10th. Pisces season begins on February 18th. So, by the time we're already in like early to mid-February, like I said, you're doing all of this Aquarius season zooming out. Then once we go to Pisces, we have the sort of feeling of all of that. We get to... Pisces is so much about then the emotional delivery and the feeling and kind of being so much in the emotion of it. So I think it's interesting that while we're zoomed out and saying, why do I do what I do? Why do I dress the way I dress? Who are the people I'm addressing? What's the point? As February starts to come in and kind of trickle in, we'll then really get to feel it and like be in the delivery. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're doing the costuming before a movie, and now you're actually in your costume and you're delivering the lines and you're feeling the emotion. So as Mercury and Venus enter Pisces, I think the assignment is a bit more, okay, I'm being thrown into my body and now I'm really reckoning with and understanding with the meaning and the essence of that, which is beautiful. And I think there's a sense of feeling. I once did a Saturn return interview with Matt Rogers of Las Culturistas, an amazing comedian and performer. And he's a Pisces. He's like a multiple Pisces. He's like a triple Pisces. And when I asked him, like, what's your advice? And he was like, don't be afraid to feel it all. And there's something about that. So I just want to say, like, we're talking so much about the big picture and like these bigger things happening in the world and our place in the world and how we're influenced. As we go into February, you get to really feel into it. And it's interesting too. I always think about, like, with winter clothes, the texture. In the summer, you get to be hot, but you get to be sexy, but there's no texture. You know, I'm wearing my like fur-lined my fur-lined Doc Martens. I'm feeling into it. So that's going to be the journey from the macro to micro. It's the I'm out of my body, I'm observing, I'm in my body, I'm feeling the pain, I'm feeling the warmth, I'm feeling the beauty, I'm feeling the grief, all of it. Okay. So I hope this was useful. Like I said, I'm wanting to give you this galaxy brain stuff so that you can then look at your chart and look at your life and even look at your planner and be like, okay, I'm seeing how I can interpolate this in my own language. I would love to hear how this is registering in your own life, and any questions or comments or pictures or fascinations or references. So please hit us up at ask@heavenlybodiespodcast.com. You can always book a reading with me at davidodyssey.com. Please, if these horoscopes have been interesting, or if this is giving you some direction or food of thought, or if there's people that you want to share these with, it would really mean a lot if you found chic people to share this with. So please share, rate, review, send it around, tell people. You know what to do. And thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week, and we will be zooming into a lot of the themes we just discussed here. So I will be seeing you very soon. Mwah. Thank you for listening. This podcast is part of Pride House Media, hosted by David Odyssey, and produced by Matthew Breen and Josh Rosenzweig, with original music composed by Nell Balaban. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a rating and review. It really helps others discover the show. I'd love to get to know you, so email questions and visions to ask@heavenlybodiespodcast.com and book a reading with me at davidodyssey.com. Until our next trip, keep looking up.